Governor Bello Matole presents budget for 2021 fiscal year. Council announces Professor Mazu Kuso as third substantive Vice Chancellor of Federal University, Kuso. Remaining activities of Chief of Army Staff's Annual Conference 2020 has been cancelled. On business, Securities and Exchange Commission opposes Nigerian government move to manage unclaimed dividends of shareholders. On sports, Arsenal eased past Doldak to stay perfect in Europa League. And on the international scene, President Muhammadu Buhari congratulates Akufo-Addo on re-election. Welcome to Svtv News. I am Musa Joy Unyoza. Governor Bello Mohammed Matawale Maradun has presented to the state legislature a budget estimate of over 145 billion naira for the 2021 fiscal year. The budget comprises of over 81 billion naira for capital expenditure, while the sum of over 64 billion naira earmarked for recurrent expenditure.
The proposed 2021 to 2023 multi-year budget and hence 2021 recurrent and capital estimate totaling which is made of 77,151,251,000 and 68,287,500,000 as recurrent, and a capital revenue as well as 64,399,751,000 and 81,045,000 as recurrent and capital expenditure respectively. In 2020 budget proposal, Mr. Speaker, honorable members, the proposed 2021 budget is estimated at 145,438,751,000. The proposal is based on the projected recurrent and capital revenue of 77,151,251,000 and 68,287,500,000 for their respectively.
The estimated revenues is budgeted at over 77 billion naira for the capital budget, while the sum of over 68 billion naira is estimated as recurrent revenue for the 2021 fiscal year. For more on the story, we now to our correspondent Peter Phillips.
Sectoral allocation of the capital expenditure consists of economic sector with 32 billion 17 million, social sector with 19 billion 102 million, administration with 28 billion 275 million, and law and justice with 1 billion 655 million.
Out of 145,438,751,000 proposed estimate for the year 2021, the sum of 64,399,751,000 is earmarked for recurrent expenditure, while the sum of 81,045 million is dedicated to capital expenditure. Sectoral allocation of capital expenditure, Mr. Speaker, honorable members, the sum of 81,045 million allocated to the capital expenditure is distributed among the main sector of our economy as follows. Economic sector. This sector is very crucial to the general well-being of our people and the development of the state, as the economy is the primary and critical component of our life. We need vibrant economic policy to harness our abundant economic potential, particularly agriculture and solid minerals.
Reviewing the performance of the 2020 budget, Governor Bello Mohammed said that despite the COVID-19 slowdown in the budget performance, a lot of remarkable achievements were recorded. He said the state government has completed the construction of standard government liaison offices and lodges in Kaduna and Abuja, and has reconstructed the government house in Gusau with 18 standard chalets. Similarly, it has reconstructed the Ibrahim Malaha State House of Assembly. He further revealed that the construction of an international cargo airport has also reached an advanced stage. Other important milestones include the construction of several kilometers of both urban and rural roads and the construction of several health centers across the state. He also revealed the intervention of government in agriculture, which include the promotion of cotton production, the reactivation of Zakarep, where 17,000 farmers have registered and are being supported with agricultural equipment and consumables.
The introduction of the Comprehensive Agriculture Revolution Program, Zakarep. Under the program, the 17,000 farmers registered for the year 2020 are being allocated fertilizers, improved seeds and seedlings, and other agriculture implements as well as extension services. In the final stage, to engage 35,000 cotton farmers under the CPM-funded Anchored Borrower Program in order to facilitate foreign direct investment into mining, agriculture, as well as the hospitality and tourism industry. Mr. Speaker, my administration has embarked upon the construction of a standard airport, international and cargo at the cost of 11.5 billion naira.
Governor Bello Matawalle promises to ensure that the 2021 budget consolidates on the gains of the 2020 budget with significant improvement to be recorded. Peter Phillips reporting for Svtv News, Gusau.
The Zamfara State chapter of the All Progressives Congress, APC, says it will take the Independent Electoral Commission, INEC, and the Inspector General of Police to court for allegedly violating Electoral Act during the just concluded State Assembly by-election. Addressing a press conference, the publicity chairman of the party, Alhaji Ibrahim Mohammed Rini Magaji, said INEC has failed to do its responsibility of conducting a free and fair election in Bakura State Assembly by-election. He said that in the beginning things started on a very good footing, but at the end INEC seemed to compromise and started operating as another Zamfara State government agency doing the bidding for the PDP. For more on the story, Abu Sufyan reports.
Alhaji Ibrahim stressed that when the exercise commenced on the 5th of December, there were large-scale violence in all the 114 polling units and 9 voting centers across the local government in order to instill fears into the innocent eligible voters who turned out to exercise their civil rights. He said the complicity of the security agencies in the exercise was so glaring that some of their operatives were used in the intimidation, vote buying and ballot snatching episodes.
To know that APC and INEC will meet in the court of law to sort out things as far as the
He said that APC had written to INEC to complain about the irregularities and also sought for the extension of the date for the supplementary election but could not get any response. In order to keep records straight, APC had written several letters to INEC on such incidences and expected it to address it properly before going into the supplementary election. He stressed that INEC did not take into cognizance the APC critical role as a major stakeholder in the exercise and therefore went ahead to finish the dirty job it started, and that was what informed the decision not to participate in the supplementary election. Abu Sufyan Abakar reporting for SVTV News.
Former Zamfara State Governor Ahmed Sani Yarima has said the Igbo nation has been marginalized in the country for a long period. Speaking to newsmen in Owerri Thursday, shortly after the convocation ceremony of Freedom University and Theological Seminary, Alhaji Yarima, who introduced Sharia law in Zamfara State during his reign as governor, said if marginalization of Igbo people ends, it will halt the agitation for Biafra. He noted that if there is marginalization, there will be agitations. If there is end to marginalization of Igbo, IPOB would not agitate for Biafra. For more on the story, Peter Phillips reports.
He, however, made it clear that the issue of zoning or rotation of the presidency of Nigeria is not contained in the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria or the Constitution of any political party in the country. Alhaji Yerima said Nigeria needs change, stating that the security of lives and properties of its citizens and improved welfare for the people should be a priority. The politician said security of lives and property is key. The security agencies must be equipped to protect the people at all times. Alhaji Ahmed Sani Yerima, who spoke on Sharia law, said the law was clearly misunderstood by many, especially non-Muslims, when he introduced it in Zamfara State. He said the law was introduced in the state after consultations with both Muslims and Christians in the state. He noted that Christians lived freely without molestation in the state when he was governor. The former governor said Sharia law was only introduced for the Muslims in his state, but mischief makers misconstrued it to foment trouble and confusion across the country. Peter Phillips reporting for Svtv News, Gusau.
The Governing Council of Federal University Gusau has announced Professor Mazu Abubakar Gusau of Usman Dan Fodio University as the university's substantive third vice-chancellor. The announcement was made by the Pro-Chancellor and Chairman of Council, Mr. Isa Ezekiel Benjamin, on Thursday, 10th December 2020 at the University Council Chamber, immediately after the completion of the university's 28th council meeting.
The address is merely on the outcome of the appointment of a new Vice-Chancellor that will assume office by the grace of God on 10th of February 2021 and administer the university for the next 5 years.
Mr. Isa Ezekiel Benjamin stated that the process for the selection of the VC began when the university called for application through advertisement published on two national dailies, the Daily Trust and the Punch newspapers. For more on the story, Samira Ibrahim reports.
As a result of the advert, the university received 25 applications from erudite scholars across the country, 4 of which were searched by the university through search team constituted as provided by law. 6 out of the total applicants were disqualified as a result of their inability to fulfill the requirements indicated in the advertisement. The chairman stated that all the processes undertaken by the council was guided by the University Miscellaneous Act 1993, Decree No. 11, and the Amendment Act 2003. He further mentioned that the process was also undertaken with full participation of 2 principal officers of Federal Character Commission in the state. According to the chairman, Professor Maaz Abubakar Gusau scored a total of 79.5%. Professor Mamman Audu Wasagu 76.5%, while Professor Umar Adamu Dambata took third position with a total of 75.4% among the 19 applicants invited for interaction.
The results. Number 1, Professor Mazu Abubakar Gusau, after the scores were collated, scored 79.5%. Number 2, Professor Mamman Audu Wasagu, 76.5%. Number 3, Professor Umaru Adamu Dambata, 75.4%.
The council has already approved the appointment of Professor Maaz Abubakar Gusau as the third Vice-Chancellor of Federal University Gusau.
As it is in the law, the first 3 candidates were recommended by the selection board to the council. And like I said, the council has approved the appointment of Professor Mazu Abubakar Gusau as one that scored the highest number of votes in the interview and coming first in the interview to run the affairs of the university from 10th of February 2021 for the next 5 years from that date on assumption of duty.
To serve for a period of 5 years starting from 10th February 2021. Samira Ibrahim reporting for SVTV News.
The Zamfara State Police Command has refuted a purported attack of Sokoto State mass transit bus and kidnap of the passengers at Kwashabawa village in Zurumi local government area. The command described the report as a fictitious imagination of a mischief makers who derive pleasure in spreading rumors to instill fear into the citizenry. A statement by the command explained that on 10th December 2020, a mass transit bus conveying passengers from Sokoto to Katsina developed a mechanical fault along the area in question. For more on the story, Hawa Muhammad reports.
The passengers were apprehensive and jittery, hence they all scattered and took to flight, leaving the bus and their luggages, and the police in Zurmi got the information and rushed to the scene. The police uploaded all the passengers' luggages and brought them to the police station for safekeeping to avoid miscreants stealing the passengers' valuables. All the passengers later emerged and claimed their luggage and left. The police command called on the good citizens of the state to shun the viral video and avoid spreading the misleading information that can retard societal cohesion and progress. Hawa Muhammad reporting for SVTV.
The First Lady of Zamfara State, Mrs. Aisha Bello Matawale Maradun, solidifies engagement with female police officers in the fight against gender-based violence. The last day of the 16 days activism, which is also marked as the Human Rights Day, came with a strong partnership with the police force through the First Lady's engagement with female officers in an interactive session that held at the police headquarters in Gusau. This year's Human Rights Day, which focused on ensuring that human rights are central to recovery efforts, was marked by the First Lady Hajia Aisha Bello Matawale Maradun to create a common synergy in the fight against gender-based violence. For more on the story, over now to our correspondent Samira Ibrahim.
In her remarks, the First Lady, who was represented by Special Advisor, Office of the First Lady, Fatima Musa, stated that the interaction was to identify areas of strengthening working relationship between the police and other relevant bodies when issues of abuse are reported to them.
The last day for the 16 days of activism, just like the MC said, we have had several engagements throughout the 16 days, right from the 25th of November, when His Excellency flagged off the 16 days of activism. We've been having a series of activities. We've had a road walk with His Excellency, which he joined. There was also the inauguration of the Gender-Based Violence Committee, which you are part of, sir. I'm sure you have received our letter and that you're a member of the committee, so it's all our collective effort. This shouldn't be a new thing for us. The essence of marking the gender-based violence in these 16 days is to bring awareness to many people, for them to know that there are mechanisms where they can go through, there are channels where they can go through to ensure that their plights are being addressed. And we know that violence, especially sexual violence, is something that is almost on a daily occurrences with the high rate of indices we're having at the SAC Center. So we deemed it necessary that it's a collective effort that everybody should be involved, the police, the judiciary, the executive, and even families at home are all involved in this fight against gender-based violence. So we are here because we want to have an interactive session with our female police officers, who is not all about, we've been talking about the problem. Every day we've been talking about the problem, we know the problem. But now our interaction is how do we solve this problem, which we know that without the security personnel, we're going nowhere, because they are the first point of contact whenever an abuse occurs. And the abuse is not just only about sexual abuse, domestic violence, they are all abuse. Intimidation, child labor, female genital mutilation, they are all parts of the abuse. So what rate of abuse do they receive as female officers at the police force? So we're here to also advocate that you're part of the GBV committee. We want you to play a huge role and support the office of the First Lady in the fight against gender-based violence.
She said the First Lady acknowledged the commitment registered by the Commissioner of Police in supporting female police officers in this regard, sexual violence, adding that it is something that is a daily occurrence and it has become necessary that everybody should be involved in the fight to end the menace. She pointed out that the police, judiciary, executive and families at home must work together in bringing an end to the gender-based violence in the state and country as a whole. Earlier in his welcome address, the Zamfara State Commissioner of Police, CP Usman Nogogo, assured the delegation of maximum cooperation of his officers in this campaign, adding that as member of the state's Committee on Gender-Based Violence, the success of the project is dear to him. CP Usman Nogogo emphasized that reorientation is a key strategy to fighting the gender-based violence. As part of the 16 days campaign against gender-based violence, the closing ceremony of Women Empowerment Training Program took place and beneficiaries received all the necessary items to further their production. In a related development, the First Lady of Borno State and founder Multi-Aid and Charity Initiative, Dr. Falmata Babagana Umar Zulum, has in the making of events to empower vulnerable women as a way of responding and protecting them from being victims of gender-based violence. The event took place at the multipurpose hall of the government house, have various stakeholders in attendance, which includes women politicians. In her address, the First Lady of Borno State, Dr. Falmata Babagana Umar Zulum, thanked everybody for coming and acknowledged the effort of all partners and the Ministry of Women. She also makes commitment to continue in the fight against violence till all women are safe. Highlight of the event was presentations of over 400 sewing machines and grinding machines to the beneficiaries. Samira Ibrahim reporting for SVTV News.
The Nigerian Army has announced that due to resurgence of COVID-19 pandemic in the Federal Capital Territory, Abuja, in what appears to be a second wave of infection cycle, and the unfortunate incident on Tuesday, 8 December 2020, where an officer participating in the ongoing Chief of Army Staff's Annual Conference 2020 tested positive to COVID-19, the remaining activities of the conference have therefore been immediately cancelled. All the participants have been mandated to immediately proceed on self-isolation in line with the federal government protocol for COVID-19 and to prevent any further spread of the disease. For more on the story, Hawa Muhammad reports.
The Army Authority regretted any inconveniences the cancellation might have caused the participants and the public. Meanwhile, the Nigeria Center for Disease Control has confirmed 675 new cases of COVID-19 in the country. Ahead of a possible second wave of the corona pandemic, the Nigerian government has ordered the reopening of all isolation and treatment centers in the country. Hawa Muhammad reporting for SVTV News.
Still to come your way is the business, the sport, and the international news. But before then, a quick commercial break. Stay tuned. Welcome back. Let me quickly take you to our business desk for the business update.
Welcome to Business Desk. The Securities and Exchange Commission is opposed to a proposed amendment in the Finance Bill 2020 that prescribed that unclaimed dividend be handed over to the federal government as trustee. The head of the department, SEC, Abdul Qadir Abbas, stated this at the public hearing of the bill organized by the Senate Committee on Finance on Thursday. His submission was in reaction to the presentation of the Finance Minister, Zainab Ahmed, on the key reforms intended in the bill. She explained that under the Companies and Allied Matters Act, the federal government proposes the creation of an unclaimed dividend, an unutilized bank balance trust fund. She said the platform will house dividends that were declared but unclaimed and will be owed as a perpetual debt to shareholders. It is proposed that such unclaimed dividends should be handed over to the government as trustee in a perpetual fund created under supervision of the CBN and DMO, with private sector involvement in the governance of the fund. The liability of public companies will no longer be extinguished after 12 years, as currently provided for in the CAMA. Mr. Abbas, however, opposed the government's plan to supervise the platform, particularly because the Investment Securities Act mandates the Commission to protect the interests of the investors. And that's all on Business Desk today. I'm Samira Ibrahim. Thanks for watching. I'm back to the newsroom.
And on sport, over now to Sufyan Abubakar.
Thank you, Joy Musa. Welcome to the sports room. I'm Abu Sufyan Abubakar. Arsenal is past Dundalk to stay perfect in Europa League. The Gunners maintained their perfect record in this season Europa League as goals from Eddie Nketiah, Mohamed Elneny, Joy Willock and debutant Folarin Balogun sealed a 4-2 win at Dundalk in their final Group B match on Thursday. A much changed Arsenal lineup rested several senior players having already qualified for the next round. Arsenal went ahead through Eddie Nketiah's goal as he chipped the ball over Dundalk goalkeeper Gary Rogers for his 5th goal in all competitions this season. Mohamed El-Neni doubled the lead with a shot from distance 6 minutes later for his first Arsenal goal in 3 years. Dundalk equalized through Derek Leahy's effort before Joe Willock struck with a low shot after the interval to make it 3-1 to Arsenal. Derek Leahy added another goal to make it 3-2 before debutant Folarin Balogun scored another goal for Arsenal to make it 4-2. And that's all we have on sports today. I'm Abu Svtv Bakar once again.
Thank you, Sufyan. And on the international scene, President Muhammadu Buhari congratulated President Nana Akufo-Addo of Ghana on his re-election for a second term in office. The president also commended the people of Ghana on the successful conclusion of the presidential and parliamentary elections, attesting further that with the right institutions and political leadership, constitutional democracy in the West African sub-region has come to stay. President Muhammadu Buhari appeals to other contestants in the elections to put national interest above personal and partisan considerations and maintain the peace while seeking resolution of grievances through established legal avenues. The president notes that Nigeria and Ghana shares close historic and cultural ties, adding that he looks forward to working with his Ghanaian counterpart in realizing shared goals that bring peace, security and prosperity to the citizens of both countries in particular and the ECOWAS community in general. Meanwhile, the United Nations says the crisis situation in Nigeria's northeast remains volatile as over 2 million people have been internally displaced, with 300,000 persons seeking refuge in neighboring Lake Chad countries. According to Ms. Chansa Kapaya, country representative United Nations High Commission for Refugees, Nigeria, who spoke at a stakeholder meeting on the Global Compact on Refugees, said the Global Compact has 4 objectives. They are to ease pressure on host countries, enhance refugee self-reliance, expand access to third country solutions, and support conditions in countries of origin for return in safety and dignity. Still on the international scene, the Nigerian government has formally rejected all allegations by the United States that the West African country is engaged in violation of religious freedom. Nigeria's foreign ministry said in an official statement reaching Zemhua on Wednesday that the engagement with the U.S. government on the development will be vigorous. The reaction followed Nigeria's listing by the U.S. among countries of particular concern for religious freedom, accusing Nigeria and other countries of violation of religious freedom. That has been the news from Standard Voice Television. To end the news, a quick look at the major headlines. Governor Bello Matawalle presents budget for 2021 fiscal year. Council announces Professor Mazu Gusau as third substantive Vice-Chancellor of Federal University, Gusau. Remaining activities of Chief of Army Staff's Annual Conference 2020 has been cancelled. On business, Securities and Exchange Commission opposes Nigerian government move to manage unclaimed dividends of shareholders. On sports, Arsenal is past the dark to stay perfect in Europa League. And on the international scene, President Muhammadu Buhari congratulated Akufo-Addo on re-election. That's the news on behalf of the production crew and Head of News and Current Affairs Department, Alhaji Ibrahim Garoba. I still remain Musa Joy Unyoda. Thanks for watching and stay tuned.